today we're going to talk about gear. We're going to talk about shooting video and some tips for that. So Matt and I both brought, he brought a smaller kit, one of his travel kits with some of the lighter stuff. I brought most of my kit that I traveled with last time. And then give you guys some tips for using the gear. So again, like, we're not endorsing any of this gear. Like, every videographer is going to have their own preference. I'll give you the pros and cons. Like, I mean, this has come from documentary funding for the most part. Some of it's from the checkout room. Most of the stuff is in the checkout room as well. Yeah, none of it is an endorsement, just an honest opinion of what we like to use. And you should do your own research. Welcome, come on in, we're up to 4. So, in here, let's start. So this is the little bag. Let me move some things off so it doesn't fall out as I tilt it. This was just one that, I think this one was Steve's or was in the equipment room, but it's a great little rolly suitcase. Things to look at when you're choosing a bag is I really like having like compartments that you can customize. I probably spent an hour playing Tetris before going out for the shoot, trying to get all the gear to fit into here and making sure that's really snug. I was flying with this and was in hand luggage lease, but wanted to make sure nothing was going to move and that it was all easily accessible, so things that I would need quickly or near the top, and that it fits really nicely. And they give you a ton of dividers and things. I don't really like working with backpacks. I know not everybody's a fan of those. I needed more space than a backpack could provide, but I kind of look for the same thing. Backpacks, I like having side access. Other people like to see the whole thing open. It's kind of personal preference, but a good thing is to have organizers that you can adjust for your gear. So this is how this guy is packed.
I gotta do the same, just keeping everything separate so it's not all banging around in the bag together, because obviously it's a lot of glass and electronics getting smashed up.
And the nice thing about this one as well is this doesn't look like a camera bag in a good way. Like if you like close it up, just kind of looks
just
like
a
set. Yeah. That's something that just kind of looks like a carry-on. It actually can turn into a backpack, a really uncomfortable one at that. But it has like straps at the back. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to get fancy camera bags, but honestly, when I had smaller gear, like a lunchbox actually makes a great small camera bag, because nobody's gonna steal your lunch. And if they do, wow, that's just another level. But you know, a camera bag looks attractive. Like, hey, you know there's a camera bag in it. Or something like this it's a satchel, it's less appealing. So that's a good little thing. A lunchbox was great for yours. Provides insulation and the temperature, a little bit of padding, and worked great. So I'm just gonna pack this guy and keep on going.
Do you bring that as your like carry-on bag when you travel, and then just bring your like clothes in a tech bag?
Yeah, that's how I did it last time. I've done it a few different ways when I've had smaller shoots. I've done like a backpack, where I've had like a camera backpack and then had some clothes and a carry-on. But yeah, so last time I did, I just had a small backpack with like a laptop and stuff. But yeah, this was the carry-on, clothes were checked in. So it's nice because I hate checking bags just in general. I never trust it, so I only do it if I have to. But I'd rather check my clothes than my gear. You can get like Pelican cases too, which are really expensive ones. If you're gonna check gear and put it in something like that. Carry it on if you can.
Or case.
Yeah, those are great. So things in here. This is the got some loose threads coming from somewhere. They came from the camera or something else. Okay, but so this is the Sony a7 III. They just came up with a new one. I really like this. It is a full frame sensor. I really like handheld shooting with this because it's light enough where you can handheld shoot with it and stay pretty stable and not get exhausted from it. I usually throw this around my neck just as a safety blanket. It is part of the Sony mirrorless range, and Matt will go over his DSLR cameras. These are becoming more and more popular, especially for video. Their stabilization's pretty good. This one, and I'll pull up the prices of all these things as well so you guys can know. I love, this is my favorite camera to shoot with at the moment. I haven't had a chance to play with the, I think it's the AC7 or the A7C III or something like that. That's the newer one. It has a few more specs on it. Every time they come out, I just kind of pull stuff up and look at like, oh, what's new from the A7 III versus the new one. But shoots in 4K. I really like where the buttons are located. I've learned the pros and cons. Like, cons of this camera are the autofocus when shooting interviews, if there's other people walking by. I'm yet to find a setting that's really solid to rely on, because it will track faces. You can turn that off, but I've still had problems if there's other people. It tries to move focus on what it thinks is supposed to be focused on. And you can select zones to focus on, but personally, if there's people walking around behind the interview, I do not trust it. I will just use manual focus. Whereas an interview in just a room where nobody's in the background, I know I can trust the autofocus. So every camera is going to have its pros and cons. You're just going to learn your gear, or that gear that you're using that day, figure out what you like about it, what you don't, and work around that in those ways. So things to look for if you're purchasing a camera, or if you're going to use a camera for videography. If possible, look for something with a mic jack and a headphone jack. You can sometimes plug your headphones into lav mics and things like that. But that way you can put your headphones in. Always have your headphones. I almost always have my headphones plugged in, or at least around my neck while I'm shooting, but especially for interviews. That way you can control both. And yeah, you can change out the lenses. This is the lens I use most of the time on this. Zoom lens, 24 to 240. There's a lot of flexibility. This is the beautiful thing. These are so light. The lens is what's making this guy heavy right now. It's great. It can be a bit more inconspicuous, and I think the colors that come off them are great personally. But yeah, that is what I like at the moment. If you want to show what
Yeah,
you're
sure.
doing.
So I still shoot on DSLR cameras, mainly because I'm a wildlife photographer. That's what I love to do. They're kind of up until maybe more recently, they've been the better choice for photography over the mirrorless cameras. Although I gotta say the mirrorless cameras are really catching up very quickly to their photography capabilities. Video they are absolutely fantastic for. So I just brought one of my cameras in today because this is the camera that I use for video. I do have a Nikon Pro body that I use for photography as well as this. I like to have a little bit of variety. This one is a 45 megapixel camera. It's a Nikon D850. In addition to having a very large sensor, it does also shoot 4K video, which is great. So I can shoot 4K, 24, 25, and 30 with it. The limitations with this camera compared to some other, especially the newer mirrorless and then my Pro body, is that the sensor is not as good. It doesn't do low light as well as some other cameras do. That's kind of a trade-off that you get with a lot of the large sensor cameras. Although again, with the mirrorless and some of the new DSLRs, they're getting much better with that. But it is a great all-around camera to have. I like DSLRs just because they're bigger. I have bigger hands. They feel better when I shoot with them. I could probably drop this on a rock and it won't break, or that'll probably fly apart into 1,000 pieces.
Yep.
I find that DSLRs also have better water sealing. So if you are shooting outdoors or you're doing a lot of like kind of in snow or rain or whatever, it's much less likely to get damage from it, which is also kind of nice. But I think with the new mirrorless Pro bodies that are coming out, they should be able to do the same. As far as lenses that I like to shoot with, again, because I'm more of a photographer, I probably have more glass than somebody like Jesse, who can use a lens like this. What did you say? That's 24 to
240.
240.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't use lenses with a wider zoom range like that or focal length. So typically I will shoot with when I'm doing video. I have a 24 to 70. This is a 2.8 f2.8 aperture lens. This is pretty standard, I think, with video production with professional glass. If I need to go a little tighter or shoot from a further distance, I have a 70 to 200 lens. So again, it's a 2.8 professional glass. And then my go-to, I would say for photography and video, and this is like a must-have for everybody, whether you do photo or video, is a 50mm prime lens. They're light, they're fast, they have great bokeh. If that's something you do photography and you know what that is, they're great for that.
Like the shallow depth of field.
Shallow depth of
Yeah.
field, exactly. You get that nice kind of
Light.
fuzzy, smooth, creamy look behind your subject. They're great for interviews or like talking head shots, but they're also fantastic for low light situations as well if you're indoors or it's early morning or later at night. This is a 1.4 lens, so if you put a good sensor on a lens like this, I mean, you can shoot in the dark with this. It's really cool. Also, a fun fact is that our eyes are basically the equivalent of 50 millimeters. So a 50 millimeter lens will reproduce basically what we see. And I think that's a reason why people like to use these for interviews, because it's like you're talking to the person.
Yeah.
It's like you're sitting there, you're seeing them the way you would see them without a lens, which is pretty cool. So something to remember. It's something every photographer and videographer should have.
Yep,
in
or
their
at least
toolkit.
work up to for sure.
Yeah, and they're also very inexpensive. Good. I mean, this is the higher quality Nikon 50 millimeter. I think they do have one that's a step up. It's a Pro Body, but this is like $400. So not very expensive at all. For
Yeah,
a
because I was
really good
looking at
lens.
one of like a 50 millimeter prime lens. I think
Yeah.
it was 800 for. That's not bad.
Yeah, Nikon has one that is more expensive. I don't think you need it compared to this. I mean, this is a 1.4.
What brand is that?
This is Nikon.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. They have a 1.8 that I think is like 300, but honestly, that extra half stop up to 1.4 is well worth $100. So, or you could probably get a used one for $200.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd say like also pick your brand. I mean, you're not really committed to anything, but I'd say you're semi committed to that brand. Like you can get adapters for the lenses, but I mean, I haven't had much experience using adapters. I would expect there would be some kind of quality.
Some of them are really great.
Have there been?
Yeah. And if you don't want to buy like the native glass for the brand, a great off-brand is Sigma.
Oh, yeah.
They make amazing lenses,
Sigma's
and they're much
awesome.
less expensive
Yeah.
than the brand glass. And they work with Sony, Canon, and Nikon. So that's also something to keep in mind. And they even have a new art series for photography. And
Oh, great.
Like they get amazing reviews, and they're like half the price of the native glass. So yeah.
So yeah, the reason that I like this one is, yeah, the 50 millimeter prime can probably have, like, definitely have smoother interviews, be way lighter, and be better for that. It's very rare that I'm just going out to only do an interview that day. Usually, especially with the last shoot, I knew I'd be doing some like behind the scenes voting stuff where we'd have to be a certain distance away. So I really wanted to have the flexibility to go from an interview. Kind of set it to 50 millimeters here, and then have the flexibility to zoom in on stuff and get kind of some more wide angle shots as well. So I like the flexibility of it, but yeah, that's why I chose that one. That would be great, absolutely great for sit-down interviews. So things to think about. So let's bring up here. Camera bodies are expensive. So I really like this one. This camera body without any lenses is $1,700 new, and then, you know, good lenses, especially, I mean, what you're looking at, we were talking about around $1,000 for her good lens. I mean, there you said you don't want the 400, so you'll start building up your repertoire, and your gloss will definitely end up costing way more than your camera body as you start to build your repertoire. So factor that in there. The next camera that I'm going to show is the A6300. That's a way more attractive price point for sure. And you can get some used ones as well. And always just like look up the difference. A lot of these are in the checking room to figure out what you like to use, or play within the store at the very least and look up reviews, but figure out what you like to use as well. So this I carry around. I didn't even use in this last shoot as the backup camera. So this is 6300. I really like this. This is just the pancake lens that came with it. It is a zoom lens, 16 to 50, but I really like this one because it's super inconspicuous. Like when I was traveling in Mexico, I just put it in my purse and nobody knew I was carrying a camera, and I could snap it out and get some good pictures. It's still 4K. Has great colors. It's not a full frame, so basically it's not going to look as good as this, and it doesn't have as much range as this, but it's a great, more affordable, lighter starter camera. Great for photography, videography, the works. Pretty good stabilization as well. Cons of these guys, they overheat, which is very sad. They said they fixed it on the 6500, which is the one that came on off this and then step up. But I know I saw them. I think they overheat less. I wouldn't say they fixed it. I would say they improved it. Because when I went to, I was just talking to some. I think I went into Best Buy when it first came out, just so I could go play with it. And I was like, oh, what's new with it? And he's like, oh, well, they fixed that overheating problem. And they kind of did. So like little things that I'd figure out when I use this camera is if I was using it, I would make sure I had spare batteries so I could switch the battery if it overheated. Always keep in the shade. I would pop this out so that more, air could get into it. I would cover it. I would turn it off at every opportunity. When it got really bad, I would shoot with this open just to keep it circulated. So the cons of this camera, but still, honestly, if I was using my own money and I was on a budget, I would still go for this guy, for sure. Personally, if you can, take a second camera on almost every shoot if something goes wrong for you. If you drop the one, if it just stops working, whatever happens, it's always nice to have a backup there. Or you can run 2 cameras for your interviews, which is great. I mean, I usually have multiple different kinds in the bag, but I'd say like 2 cameras that you could use as a primary camera. As we were saying, like this gear gets expensive, so what I would recommend is, honestly, I wouldn't recommend purchasing anything big personal until you graduate, or unless you're sure you're going to be freelancing and you're starting to do that already. Use stuff from the checkout room. Stuff gets updated every year. Ask what's available. As you get into the more advanced classes, you'll learn about more advanced stuff, and learn and play with stuff that's not yours and figure out what you like. Check out different things. Also, you may get a job with a company that either has their own cameras and wants you to use them, or has a budget for you to choose some cameras and purchase them. So honestly, I haven't had to buy a personal camera I haven't had a personal camera in years, because I haven't needed to. All the stuff is either like money from the projects has funded the gear, so then it's been like put into like a separate entity, or the people I've worked for have had cameras that they expected me to use and wanted me to use. So that has saved me a lot of money. Like, and occasionally I've borrowed like a friend's camera to do some personal stuff and things, which is a downside. But great, it's saved me a ton of money, and I've got to use some expensive gear around that. If you're going to be a freelancer, obviously you have to have your own gear. And then you can maybe start with something that's more affordable. I'm not saying go for this one, do your research. But you could start with something like this, get your 50mm prime lens, get a zoom lens, and start with this. And then I would start with this, a tripod, and we'll get to those in a second, a reflector and a microphone. And you could do awesome stuff with just those things. I would say those are the bare minimum. You have to have at least those to do a good shoot. But yeah, you can still have solid production value. And then as you get more clients, get more money, you can start building your bag, and your first camera can become your backup camera as you get more funding. So don't let the price tag scare you off. You're just trying to be like realistic. Hey, this is what the stuff costs. But there are definitely ways around it. Anything else to add at the moment?
Well, no, I would say as far as like cost of gear and quality of gear, I think for video you can get away with really good video for less money as compared to like photography.
Agreed.
Where if you want to do some really high quality photography, you definitely want to spend more money. I know a lot of people say gear doesn't matter. In photography, it definitely does. Like wildlife photography, I can say it's very expensive. But I think you can get away with like a nice compact setup that shoots 4K video with decent glass, and you can capture some really good stuff. Where with photography, it's a little more challenging to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just like something I was thinking about is like, make sure when you guys do like portraits or interviews that you don't do too wide, because like sometimes when you do like 24 on like a person, it like kind of like makes them look like wide and like weird. So like you want something that can go to like 50mm, for example, is good, because like that's not gonna like distort someone and make their face look all funny.
Right. Yeah, like 50 is obviously I think the most popular. Like 85mm or 105mm is really good for that, because as the lens gets longer, it compresses what you see more. So it makes it look more natural and more normal. So which is easier for our eyes. And like we said, if you go too wide, you actually make your subject disappear in the picture almost. So if you have like an ultra wide or like a fisheye lens, people will look really small in it, and it just looks really weird. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, great. That's a great point. We brought that up earlier today. So yeah, 50mm is what we see with our eyes. So like, you can zoom in more. I wouldn't go any like wider than that. And there's a great, like Philip Bloom does a great little tutorial, and he actually compares interviews on different lenses and shows you how people's faces are distorted. And says like, hey, this is how I see him right now versus the wide angle where their face literally looks really weird, especially if they're super close. So now what should I put that if I lose that? There we go. So lenses, cool. Let's go into some microphone stuff. Microphone. So always, like in videography, you always have a microphone on your camera. In a pinch, like the internal audio works, but it's usually not going to be good quality. So I recommend always a shotgun mic. I like this little tiny Rode mic. This is surprisingly sensitive, and I kind of did a day where I tested the slightly larger Rode mics, and I honestly thought this one sounded better. They were in the same price range, but they were like longer and allegedly more sensitive. I preferred the sound of this, and it could have been the age of the microphone too. But I really like this. It's great. I've been able to do interviews off of this in a pinch, especially in like less noisy environments. A lav mic is ideal for interviews, but this will work to get surprisingly good audio. This is the dead cat that goes on, so just a windshield, and it helps minimize the wind noise. Something to be aware of with these guys is that if you have a longer one, be careful that it's not like hanging over the lens, and I'll show you guys on the Osmo how that kind of happens as well. That's also why I like this shorter one. But even with this, like if you had a shorter, like if you had a prime lens with the longer one, or even this, it might dip into it. So just be aware of those things. But audio, always have it in, have it plugged in if you can have the headphones running to get that ambient and natural sound. Or the surprise interview. If you didn't know somebody you were going to have when you're asking somebody to explain something, you can get some good sound with this. You never know when you're going to need it. So this one doesn't have any settings. This is a super simple one. If you plug it in and you go, and you get some fancier ones that has.
Yeah. So I prefer to use a shotgun mic when I'm doing my video, especially because I'm doing like wildlife stuff. If I'm doing any video, obviously I'm not getting too close to the wildlife I'm shooting, so it's nice to have a shotgun mic. What makes this different is that it'll pick up sound from a further distance, and it's basically picking up the sound from where you're pointing it at. So, let's say you're my subject. I want to have this pointed right at you. It will pick up a little bit of sound from behind it, just the way it works. I don't know if you ever see like a diagram of the way the sound waves function around a shotgun mic. Is most of it's kind of like in this cone in front of it, but it will pick up a little bit behind you. So I've actually got myself on audio a couple times, like I don't know, it's like chewing like gum or something, and I'm like, what the hell is that noise? I'm like, oh shit, it was me. So you have to remember to be careful when you're using a shotgun mic, because it will pick up from behind, but it won't pick up a lot around you. That's not really the way it works. So if there's like ambient noise, you won't get a whole lot of it, which is really nice. Having the dead cat again helps. You can kind of see that's what the microphone itself looks like. So the center is just right up here. Or you can use a foam cover as well. Because I'm outside, the dead cat does a better job of reducing wind noise. And it's also, it can be good just picking up any B-roll audio that you want as well that you can't get close to. So, like let's say it's like a moving vehicle or like a train or even a plane flying overhead. This is a really good microphone for that. And when I'm not using this, I like to use, it's also Rode. Rode is just a great brand. I use a Bluetooth wireless lav mic. So one end clips onto my camera, the other end I just clip onto whoever is I'm getting the audio from. This is great, just kind of, you can clip it under their collar, a bra strap, or an undershirt, or whatever. It looks bulkier than it really is, but it's actually surprisingly easy to hide. I don't think I showed the last group, but I have actually just a little cover that goes over this, again, to reduce noise from wind. It's just a really nice mic to have. I trust this a lot more than like those cheap $15 wired lav mics, because those things,
I don't trust those at all.
like they last like 3 or 4 times and then they die for some reason. So this is nice. I can just charge it up before I go shooting. It'll last all day. The only thing with wireless mics is you have to be aware of if there's like appliances or like electronics, or if you're near like power lines and stuff like that, it can just interfere with the signal. So other than that, they work really well.
That's a Bluetooth one, right?
It is, yeah.
So, there's a really great one for Sony, and I think the Rode one's probably a better quality. The nice part about Sony that I like is that they have actually a plug-in horseshoe over here. So you can buy some mics that you don't actually have to plug into there, that just go into those. They have a similar
I wish that
Bluetooth one.
this did that. I still have
Yeah.
to plug this in, unfortunately.
But that one I think is a better quality because Sony makes one as well, and it has mixed reviews. I've liked it. I think it has a shorter range than a typical transmitter mic, but it works well. It's a nice part about Sony. But then of course it's like Apple, and then you have to buy the Sony things to fit into their horseshoe. I'm sure there's aftermarket stuff, but for the most part, that's where it's gonna live. So yeah, so then usually for interviews you want to be using some type of lav mic so that you're on them getting sound from them. I think like one of these, and this is something that I wouldn't skimp on. Yeah, you can find them for like $50, but do not use a $50 lav unless you're in an absolute pinch. The signal's not gonna be good. These connections, oh my gosh, these connections break so easily. They get really damaged. Always test your lav mics. I'd say this is probably the piece of gear that breaks the most often and fails the most often is these cables over here. And sometimes it's user and you don't always wrap it properly. But I would say this is the thing that goes out the most. And then you have crackly audio in your interviews. Oh, it's the worst. Or you sit there to shoot and you're while you're in Europe and you're about to interview somebody, you're testing your mic and you're like, oh no. It literally happened on the last shoot. Thank goodness we had a backup lav, but there was, you could see the wire sticking through here. I failed. So yeah, have one of these. So things with these, if somebody else is using labs in the same area, you want to make sure you're in a different frequency. And you can just set up the frequency. You want to make sure your receiver and your transmitter are on the same frequency. You just set that up. And this is all part of testing your gear before you go out. Always test your gear. But if somebody else, and if you're at a place where there's news reporters, there's probably like, 3 to 10 labs over there. So sometimes they'll just like go for wired mics to avoid that problem. You want to make sure that everybody kind of just is on a different frequency. But these have a little more range I found than the Bluetooth. And they're great. They just take a little longer to set up, for sure. And always test these guys, make sure you know how they work. They have a few more settings than the Bluetooth mic, where just plugging in a wire or putting this on there. Once you figure them out, they're not too bad. But yeah, they are great for little interviews. I want to say solid ones started around $200 for those that I've seen.
Yeah, I think this was $200.
Yeah.
I think it was around there.
Yeah, audio is something like you can find it cheap, but oftentimes you get what you pay for with mics. And the cheaper they are, the worse quality are, the sooner they're going to break. I would say that's,
Don't skimp on sound.
yeah, don't skimp on that.
Because you guys have learned that sound is a lot harder to fix than video.
Yeah, you can usually work around some things there.
Yeah.
So before I get into tripods and things, I'll get into handheld shooting. So shooting, I shoot a lot handheld, just because of the nature of the stuff. Honestly, tripods, make the tripod your best friend as much as you can where you're shooting. Like, if it's on your tripod and you hit record and you let it go, you know you're gonna get good footage. If it is a super important shot, put it on your tripod. It is okay. Like, and if you can get most of your footage practically with a tripod, Steve loves his monopod. I have mixed feelings about the monopod. You don't like the monopod?
I'm not a fan.
I don't know, I feel like it's a little clunky and I've had like a few fights with it. And I've just like tried to, and I probably should just spend more time like getting to know.
I think you either love it or hate it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like he loves it and it's great because it's somewhere in between handheld shooting and you get a little more stabilization and you still focus. And I've seen him shoot some great footage on it, so see if that works for you. I'm still like, I use it a bit, and I was like, no, I'm hand holding it, screw it, I'm just gonna use my body as a tripod. So, on that, using your body as a tripod, this guy's your friend, it won't fail you as long as you use it properly and you test it. Handheld shooting, turn your body into the tripod. So you want to have as many points of contact as you can. Even if you're super strong, you work out all the time, you're gonna get shaky shooting like this very soon. So I use my ribs as my tripods. My elbows are anchored in here. After long days, my ribs are kind of sore because of how much I'll anchor in here. And then if things are super shaky or if it's bright, like even using your face as another point of contact will sometimes help stabilize things. And the nice part about shooting by hand is you have the flexibility to get any type of shot. It can be shaky, and it's get to know your camera, because some cameras I just won't handheld shoot on because it looks terrible. But like if I'm crouching, like I'll use my knees. Wear comfortable pants that you can crouch in and things. But I'll use my knees as a tripod all the time. Like if I'm around tables, I'll either put the camera on the table or use the like table as a tripod, like as the base for my tripod with my elbows. When I'm doing interviews, if I absolutely cannot get a tripod and I have to do a quick interview, I'm right-handed, so if I handheld, I'll do them on this side. And I'll lock in this elbow and kind of have them here because you obviously, you don't want them looking into the lens. So this way I can get an easier peek because also the settings are on that side, so the screen's close to here. I know I'm more stable, and I know I can get a pretty solid interview. Not awesome, but usable interview from this position. If it's any longer than 3 minutes, this bicep's gonna start to cramp and I'm gonna start doing this. So if it's gonna be any longer, like learn your own limitations, you will, out here, even if you're super strong and you think you have the steadiest hands, this is never gonna look as stable as you think it is. If you have to, occasionally I've had to get high shots from there, very rarely are they useful. So when you're shooting handheld, so you're using your body as a tripod, trying to be as stable as possible, learning to breathe shallow while you're shooting because you don't want your stomach to be moving because that's your tripod. And like increase your attention span when you're handheld shooting because when you're on a tripod, you're gonna set it, you're gonna hit record, and you're not gonna be as tempted to move it. But when it's in your hands, you're like, okay, I got it. Okay, I got it. Ooh, that's cool. Let's point at that. And then you end up with 100 2-second shots, then none of them are useful. So when you're doing handheld stuff, either if you're pretending to be a tripod and you're doing like static shots, make sure you're counting to at least 10, or watching here that you're getting 10-second shots, because the first second on each side is not going to be usable. That's going to be a shake because you're hitting record. And then it gives you some wiggle room to play with if your arm twitches or something. So make sure you're getting 10 seconds at least of footage. I like to get more. And if you're doing camera motion, make sure that you get 10 seconds on each side of it. So you get 10 seconds in the front. So what was the example I was using earlier? Let's say I'm doing like COVID in the classroom. I'm going to do like a cool shot over here with the hand sanitizer in the foreground. I mean, cool is a generous term for the shot, hand sanitizer. But hand sanitizer in the foreground. I'm trying to get some students in the background here, and I want to do like a reveal motion where I stand up or do something like that. I'll make sure I get 10 seconds here, do my motion, or I'll move my suitcase and just pan into the classroom like that, and then get 10 seconds there. Because I'd say probably every time I do a handheld pan or something without a stabilizer, maybe like 1 out of 5 or 6 times is it usable. It's just the reality of it. I mean, I'd say 2 years ago it'd be 1 out of 10. It's getting better, but still, like a lot of times I'm just not that stable. So, but that way I have 2 shots to use. Even though I can't use my pen, I can use the first one and the last one because I weighted on each side. And best case scenario, I can use the pen. So that's what I do there. Yeah.
Right before the pan, you were going like this?
So right before I was gonna do that, and I would experiment. I encourage, like, SD cards are pretty inexpensive, so experiment. Like I was going to, because I couldn't see anybody here, so I was like, cool, I've got Casey here in the background. And I've got my hand sanitizer, and I wanted to reveal the rest of the students.
So you go like down, up is usually easier than here to here, is what you're saying?
No, it's not.
Oh.
That would have been a risk. I don't think that shot would have worked. I would have tried it anyway, but I'd probably go back and realize that that's probably not going to look super stable. Then I was like, oh, if I move that suitcase, a pan's going to be easier to just do that. And on that note, like, use your body to pan. So your body is the tripod. This is not going to be super stable. If you're going for the cinematic, dramatic look, sure. But if you're trying to go for a solid pan, keep your arms locked in and use your body. That's going to be way more stable, and I'll have a way better chance of using it. Play, like, that's why I like the 10 seconds on either side, because hey, it gives you something usable on both sides. But best case scenario, you get a super cool shot, or worst case, nobody sees it and you tried something and it failed. So I encourage you guys to play and experiment with some cool stuff once you've got your basis. Yeah. Any thoughts on handheld shooting?
No, I think using your body to move is much better than using your arms. And then I was going to bring up just for tripods.
Okay.
I didn't do this for the last one. I should have. always make sure your tripod can hold your camera and your lenses.
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up. I wish I brought
Yeah,
that up
I just thought
earlier.
of it. I was like, so you know, like a smaller setup like Jesse has here, a more compact mirrorless, a smaller lens, a small mic.
Well,
a
I
tripod like
wouldn't
this.
put this with this
I
on
would
there.
never put this on here. It would probably hold it weight-wise, but I mean,
I'd just
like
be able
a
to, like,
sneeze will knock that thing over,
Just like-
and you'll have broken camera gear all over the place. So always make sure that the tripod is built for what you're going to be shooting. You know, like I have a very heavy-duty tripod for my wildlife camera lenses. I mean, these are my small lenses. So I mean, I have 2 lenses that are much larger than these, and I need a very sturdy tripod. I think my tripod can hold 50 to 12 pounds. You know, like something like that is maybe 8 pounds, maybe. You know,
Yeah,
if that.
if
So
that. It's tiny.
yeah, so always make sure you're putting your expensive gear on a tripod that'll hold it.
Yes.
Because that'll be just a disaster.
And that's happened, like, oh gosh, this happened. So I had a compact travel tripod. These are great. I love this because you saw it fits into this part of my suitcase. It's tiny, it's super light, and this is like, it's not an inexpensive tripod by any means. I wouldn't get an inexpensive travel tripod. Because, and I mean, I'm using mirrorless cameras, that's the biggest lens I'm traveling with. I know it can hold it in the wind. I wouldn't trust this. If I'm indoors and nobody's gonna touch it, I know it will hold it. But in the smallest bit of wind, I've had a camera, and thank goodness it fell into bushes, so it broke the fall. But it was like a moderately windy day. I had a travel tripod, had my, you know, a slightly smaller setup than this, and just whoop, camera went down into the bushes. I ended up like, the worst thing I broke was the clip on the back of the lav mic. So I was super lucky, super lucky. I definitely panicked a lot of the time. So great point, make sure your tripod matches that and you find a good balance between, and make sure it can hold it, and make sure it's practical. Because honestly, like a lot of the cinema tripods, they're heavy. I'm not going anywhere with that unless there's a cart. Like they are so heavy. I mean, they're getting better. I mean, you get the aluminum tripods, and then the lighter it is and the more weight it can take, it's going to up it in price, obviously, because you're going for a lighter weight material and something that can hold something. It's going to get up there. I really like this guy. I don't even know what brand this is. I'm not even sure. I think this is either Greg's or Steve's personal tripod that I was borrowing. But it says the Davis and Sanford Powerball. I like it. I mean, it's not great for motion. I like it because of its size. And that it's pretty lightweight and it's sturdy, as long as everything's locked down. I know it holds the gear pretty well and can fit into the suitcase. Cons of these guys, I'm going to show you my other favorite travel tripod, is that they have a very low maximum height. And this is one of the higher travel tripods. So, make sure you lock everything down and know your tripod before. But you can't do stand-up interviews with tall people. Like this would probably be okay for somebody my height because your camera's up there, you can get away with it. Maybe somebody a little taller. Probably wouldn't use this for Matt. I'd have Matt kind of sit on the table like this if we're doing an interview in here, or just do a sit-down interview. So that's the con, is if it's smaller and fits into your suitcase, it's not going to go as high and it's not going to be as sturdy and reliable for your heavier cameras. So give and take there. The Manfrotto makes really great tripods. The Be Free, one of my personal favorite travel tripods, goes for around $200, maybe a little less. But it's a great little thing. And also fits into roughly, I think it's a little lower than that one, but also folds down a little smaller. So that's great for traveling. But if even with this shoot, I carried on a tripod, like an extra tripod in my hands, or put a big one in my suitcase. And this was, I honestly used this for lights and only used it for other things in a pinch. So I put my little lights on this instead. I guess it's a good segue into lighting.
Yeah, there you go. Set yourself up.
So other things that you definitely want to have, again, if you're newer and you're just starting out, start with just a reflector. These are like $15. Hey, this is a piece of gear that you can skimp on. Really, you don't need an expensive reflector by any means. It's nice to have a small one that fits into your suitcase, but these are relatively inexpensive and great. You can just play with your natural light, reflect light into semi-space, diffuse harsh light, and it all comes in one little thing. But lighting would be a next thing to get for sure. These are inexpensive lights. These are the ones in the checkout room. Matt's going to show you some nicer lights now. These work great for, like, they just have an adjustment for brightness. You can recharge the batteries here. There's only 2 temperatures, so less things to think about because it's either cool, which is what I do in this room, or if we're out in the daytime, I might consider putting this on. Or if the other, there was, actually I used this in a room where it was just really warm lights in the room as well, so I tried to match that. Great, there's less to think about, but you don't have the freedom of adjusting the temperature. You have 2 temperatures here. So this is an inexpensive one, it works. I did a nice little 3-point lighting shoot with these and it ended up looking great. It would have been a little better though if we had something like that.
Yeah, so this one's just a little bit of a step up from Jesse's. I'll keep the diffuser on, but just to show you guys, it has a removable diffuser here. It's LED lights. I think it has like over 150 individual lights on here, which is really cool. What I like about this one is it gets, first off, it gets super bright, and I'll try not to blind you guys. But with the diffuser on, it's pretty bright. You can adjust the temperature on it, which is a really nice function, so you can match the lighting of either indoors or outdoors, which is really good, or if you know you're going to be shooting at a certain temperature, because whoever, let's say you're working for somebody, they're like, oh no, I want that at 3200K or whatever, you can match it for their production, which is really nice. Another cool feature of this, which I really like, if you like doing creative stuff, it has color lights. So I don't know if anybody knows like the multiple point lighting and stuff. So if you take 345, you'll do like Steve will teach you 3, 4, 5 point lighting. So what's nice is if you want to do something creative in your video or even like a portrait photography. So Ruth, I don't know if you've ever done something, you do some, but if you want to go with like a creative color in the background, it's really nice to have as an option, in your toolkit. So you can use this for photography as well. But 3-point lighting is usually you have a backlight and you have 2 lights in front of you. One is usually it's your main light, and then you have kind of like a soft light, which I'll segue into this one. So this could be used as backlight or your main light, but it's always really good to have a small third light source and a nice diffused light as well. This is adjustable, so it gets pretty bright, but it's still that just kind of that nice diffused lighting. This is kind of good to have if you just want to just balance out that main light just a little bit. Just have one, a third spot of light on your subject. You can also use this outdoors. I mean, you can use both of these outdoors. Don't think because you're outdoors and you have nice natural light, lighting is not useful. It's very useful, actually.
Yeah.
So, especially if there's shade or there's shadows or anything like that, you can eliminate shadows with a good light outside, or if you're good with using a reflector as well. That
Yeah.
definitely helps. So yeah, good tools to have. I mean, honestly, this is like $15, I think, and this is about 50. So not very expensive at all. The battery lasts forever. I charge it just USB. It just fits really nice in my bag. It's nice and compact. So if I was really doing a lot of light shooting, I'd probably have 2 of these and 1 of these. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah.
I've gotten away with 2 of them.
I would definitely, yeah. I traveled with 2 of these, and I used 2 of them for a little shoot. So other things that you'll learn by doing as well is you also need things to put your things on. So like a cheap little thing to put the light on and balance it on somewhere. Because I've had times where I go to a shoot, I was like, great, I got my lighting, and I wasn't able to bring a full, because you can bring in a full light kit, but like a full 3-point lighting kit is, I mean, the small ones are going to be that big, and you don't have the hands. Doesn't work, but then again, they'd be like, oh, I didn't think of anything to put my light on. And then you can hold it, it still works, but it's so much easier if you just have something to do that. I have like clips, this is a GoPro clip, but here's a clip for the light, so I'll pull like one of those chairs up and clip the light onto it. And just have little things like that that you'll figure out that you may need along the way. And then these will kind of twist into, we'll get into my little DJ in a second. I wouldn't put my camera on this little guy, but a little like cheap light, works great for just on the side there. Even like, the GoPro has their own attachments for things. You can also buy aftermarket things for those. But yeah, don't be afraid to rearrange the room as well. So, when you're setting up your interviews or even your B-roll, you want to be respectful of people in their space and like ask permission and things, but if it's not set up for your interview how it is, don't just leave it that way. So if you're coming to do an interview in this room and you have somebody here, you want to be thinking about your background. So say I was like interviewing Casey here, I'd pull him off of the computer so I could kind of have that. I could have like a nice rule of thirds background. He's off the background so it's not too close and I can create shallow depth of field. If I have enough lighting, I would kill these lights and just, you know, do at least a 2, ideally a 3 or more point lighting in here, but probably get away with it. You know, rearrange things. I'd be like, okay, that chair looks dumb because it doesn't match the rest. I'm going to move that there. You don't want your viewer to be distracted by dumb things in the background, basically. There's a messy room. Like here, if I wanted to get that shot, I would just move the gear off of the table so I could get my shot. Lost interview, they threw me into like a green room where people usually get ready. It was kind of like, it was fun. I had like 15 minutes to rearrange furniture. I guess that's why I'm in this, because I find like rearranging furniture and spending 15 minutes wrecking a room fun. So like there was, well, I forgot to mention earlier, there was also a toilet. So I was like, okay, I have to close that bathroom door, but I don't want a dumb door in the background there. And there was mirrors, and I didn't want my camera to be seen in the mirrors. So I had to like set them up around the mirrors, and the couch was too far back. So I pulled a chair in, like moved an ottoman so that I could sit on something while interviewing them. And then like move chairs so I could clip lights into the chairs. And so just like, obviously you want to be polite and put the room back and make sure you have permission to move things, but make things work for it. And honestly, you know, for your first couple of interviews, if you guys are newer to shooting video, work with people that maybe you'll have a little more time to set up your interview. Take that time figuring out how to set up that good interview. Have solid lighting, test your audio, make sure it sounds good, and rearrange the room, and you'll kind of get into a routine of, hey, this is how I know I can make things look good. So yeah, don't be afraid to move things around to have them fit your shoot. Yes, that's lighting, the basics of it. Getting to know, I'll get into this little like fun thing that I've been playing with lately. But whatever you choose to use, get to know it. So when I was doing stuff for what is now University Communications, it was DER at the time, perk was I didn't need my own gear because they had all of their own gear, which is awesome. But the con of that is, hey, we were all kind of sharing gear. I wouldn't, like, if I got first choice, I'd know which ones I would go for, but sometimes I was just with the, hey, this is the camera you're doing what you shoot with. That kind of sucks. But it was great because I learned how to use different cameras. I learned what I liked and didn't like, and had to take the time to get to know things. Now every camera has a button in a different place, has slightly different settings. So ahead of your shoot, make sure you're familiar with that gear. Take the time to make sure the settings are correct the night before, so that you're not like, oh, did I format this memory card? Is this memory card empty? Are my batteries charged? Is it set to 4K or 1080? I don't know. You want to know all that before you get into your shoot. And especially if you're new to this, it's going to take some time to go through this menu, or even if it's a new camera. If it's a new camera, it's definitely going to take me a minute to find all the things I need in the menu, and to make sure I know the focus. So get to know whatever you're using, down to this tripod. Gosh, my 211 students know I've been duped by tripods before, which sounds really dumb. You're like, how many levers could there possibly be? Well, apparently there's infinite combinations of levers and things. So just make sure that you know what adjusts what, how to fold it back up. Some tripods just fold into themselves, travel tripods fold up. It's just really embarrassing when you're fussing with your tripod, which is seemingly the simplest piece of equipment you have in front of somebody you're interviewing. It just looks ridiculous. So get to know your gear, if it's as simple as a clip, a tripod, or as complicated as your camera. So learn what you are working with. Yes?
Is it possible? Okay, so I got this like LED that like goes on a tripod. And it says that you just like turn it all to like one way, but it never stays up. And then I have that issue where I'm like shooting someone and like they can tell I'm fussing with it well, and it's like really embarrassing. Like, how do you? I guess how? I mean, you already said like check your stuff before, but like how do you like?
So is it the tripod dropping, or is the tripod is the mount not?
Like okay, so like the this, it like crack, like it won't like. Okay, so like. I guess dropping, not dropping all the way to the floor,
dropping
but like,
in, yeah.
But like it like will go down because like the part of
yeah.
like this section will like collapse in, if that makes sense.
Like that.
Yes.
So it depends. Like I mean, that happens a lot. That's another thing. Make sure this thing is as tight as you can, because I've also had it before where I've had too weak of a tripod for a heavier camera, especially this kind. It's like our
And this one
previous
isn't the kind where you like close something onto it, like how it like has like a thing that you like close like those. It's the kind that you just are supposed to be able to spin it all one way.
Yeah,
And it never like works right.
It also could be that your light or equipment is this is still recording, is too heavy for your tripod. I don't know if
I
that's
don't
the
think
case.
it like came together. Like I think it just might just be cheap here because it was like $40 for
So-
2 LEDs with like a tripod.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
There could be like a gasket in there that's not doing what, like,
It could be
'cause they have like a
broken.
rubber stopper in there.
Yeah.
It just might not be doing
So-
its job.
With
Yeah.
these ones in particular, and honestly, sometimes these have 2 levers, so you crank the tripod up and down. The online class gets to have a little movement today, but like usually, and I literally hijacked this from Steve's office earlier. Steve's my equipment guru apparently. So usually these have a double lever, but I've had it before in the middle of an interview where this has like literally started unwinding and done this like awkward thing where it drops. So double check if there's a double lever on that, or like hook this thing. If this wasn't broken, you could like hook it under there and things. But this is a pretty light duty tripod as well. So look at that. And yeah, that's a nice thing about lighting gears. Most of them will fit onto your regular. I better find all these before I head out. Your tripod mount. And they're little things, like earlier I left my tripod plate on, from my other tripod that's not here, on the camera. And coins or keys usually work to twist these on because you want to make sure it's on solid. Some of them are nice. I don't know why they all don't just do this and have like a little lever that you can twist on. So be aware that you may need a tool to tighten your tripod on tight enough.
You always have Allen wrenches around.
Yeah, I have like, are they in here? Oh, I had to like move them out because I was flying. That I have like a little screwdriver set that I usually carry around, like coins, keys, like whatever I think I may need just to tighten things down.
Yeah, if your gear comes with an Allen wrench, like some of the higher gear does,
Yeah.
always keep it handy because they probably give it to you for a reason.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and you don't want to be in a spot where you can't adjust something because you forgot it.
Seriously.
Yeah.
There's a little things to think about, other things to have a ton of before I get into the little DJI, which is my new favorite toy. Like other things I carry on, I started carrying around just a little charging bank and all the cables for this. It only obviously works for something that would be charged by USB, but I know that I have like a USB charger for my cameras. I have more than enough batteries, but this is my like last resort. I have something that'll work, and that's if I'm far away from my car, just plug it into a car charger. But tons of batteries. Double check. Spend the night before, and spend time checking every single battery, even if you used them 2 weeks ago. Like double check all your batteries. Make sure you have backups. Make sure you're aware of how many backups you have. Like I went on, which made me super nervous. I only had one backup battery for the A7. Thankfully, the A7 batteries, the newer ones, and the Sony ones, last super long. Be aware, off-market batteries often don't last as long. But I always made sure they're both charged, and I had that backup handy. I had lots of batteries for that. I had lighting batteries. I checked my lab batteries. Everything that has batteries, I double checked. And this one is AA batteries, so I have extra of those lying around. All the SD cards, micro SDs, which I need for the DJI and the GoPro, all of those, and I have, this is my remnants from the shoot. They're all now in a storage container, but I had like 3 left over that I didn't end up using. Because don't delete stuff in the field. You'll regret it. Or even, you might not, but there's a good chance you will. So just SD cards are relatively inexpensive. Keep a ton of those in there. Any other things that you travel with that you recommend?
Let's see. No, I mean,
Lens
yeah, for
keeping.
video you want to make sure you have like double of everything. I would say for photography I can get away with not as much. I bring like a couple of bodies and a couple of lenses with me. Typically I just take for what I'm shooting for, but I think for video, yeah, you always want to have extra SD cards. You always want to have extra batteries. I like you have the power bank, which is awesome. I don't have one of those. I should invest in one, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have like my wipe here, bring a puffer, dust on lens, and your camera body's never a good thing.
Yeah, and that's something that I lose lens cloths like it's nobody's business, and then I find them all at the same time. So like you're like, where's the lens cloth? You'd be at a shoot and you're like, oh no, I'm really like contemplating what's the softest material that you have lying around. But then the next day I'll be like, here's all 8 of my lens spots. So I have like those lying around. Now we travel with like a new microphone, sanitizer because COVID, and other little things.
I know business cards. I know we talked about that.
Yeah, so I recommend getting business cards. They're also another relatively inexpensive thing that you can get. Like even if you don't have like a job and a title yet, that's totally okay. You should start acting like you have the job that you want to have. Like if you want to be a sports reporter, start carrying yourself when you go out to shoots like that. So this is my like CSU ones, but it's so great because you're gonna meet people in your shoots. Either they're gonna want to see the final video, they're gonna have questions, or maybe they want to hire you. They're like, hey, I need a video for this. Do you do this? Or I have this potential project or whatever. And just having a business card is so much more professional than being like, oh no, let me take down your number. So just having that, have a pen as well, because that way you can take their business card, write where you met them on their business card, or write extra things on your business card to know. So like have like your social media handles, as Matt said earlier. Like if you have a website, I have, what do I have on here? I have my email and my phone number on here, and I have my office on here, but mainly I just hope you like, email me or call me. Those are the 2 ways that works the most. When I had like personal business cards, I had my website and social media handles on there as well, so they could see work samples if they wanted to. And just have like, even though you're a student, you could easily put, a videographer or a video producer on there, or sports reporter. Even though you're a college student, if you're doing that already, if you're working for Ambition or whatever, you're reporting on sports. So having that, I think, and they have, especially now with the festive season coming out, I think one time before I was going to a networking event, the first business cards I ever did, I like ran over to FedEx and designed one at like one of their midnight locations. I was like, I need these printed now. And I think they were terrible quality, but I think it cost like $20 or something to get a couple of those. So, and now you can get like higher end ones and get them mailed in. Like any networking event before you go, like or wherever you might meet somebody, have them around, have a few in your wallet, especially if you're a freelancer, because I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting at like a restaurant, even a bar, and they'll be like, oh, you work in video? Do you do like drone stuff, or do you do this? Because I need a video for this. It's, so if you're a freelancer, make sure you have those things ready to go, and definitely on shoots, even if you're not.
Yeah, I get asked a lot for my business card when I'm out shooting, especially to go like to the national parks and stuff. So I bring like half the time, to be honest. I forget, or I leave them in my car, which is like a mile away from where I am. But yeah, it's definitely worth investing like $30 in, just to carry them around. You make great connections. I have a stack of business cards at home of other photographers that I've met out in the field. And I brought up putting your social media handle on your card now. I think is really important because it is a great way for people to quickly see your work, whether it's videos or photos. Jesse brought it up, and I'll just rehash it with you guys is, if you really are thinking about doing this, either freelance, professional, whatever, make a separate social media account for your work. So like I have 2 social media, I have like 2 Instagrams, I have 2 Twitters, I have 2 Facebook pages, I have 2 websites. I haven't gotten into some of like the newer stuff, TikTok.
I don't think anymore. There's TikTok. There's a lot of people who make money off TikTok, but I don't know. Do people like go out? Hey, follow me on TikTok?
Yeah,
it'd be kind of interesting. But
yeah, like for
business card.
Sorry,
you're just gonna put that on your business card. Like, yeah,
follow me on
TikTok.
Yeah, whatever it is. Make sure you differentiate your professional and personal, and be aware that people still may see your personal, and anything that is not with your personal, like your professional brand, is not public to find on the internet. And I've heard horrible whispers of like employers actually being like, cool, give us access, we want to follow you on your private Instagram. So, fun stuff. Never happened to me personally, but welcome to the 21st century. So you have to be aware that if whatever you're putting out online could be found by potential employers. So if you are trying to become TikTok famous and that's your life goals and you're doing well, like that's awesome. Do not talk to me about that. Like I'd be interested in it, but I cannot consult you on that whatsoever. I have no idea. Like who really knows what goes viral? Like ride a skateboard down the street with some cranberry juice and make some money. I don't know what to tell you. But again, like I don't know. I think you guys mostly have seen the guy who have you seen the skateboarding dude? basically,
What was it, the juice?
yeah, he was drinking cranberry
Cranberry,
juice
that's
while
right.
skateboarding
Ocean
down the
Spray,
street.
right?
Yeah, there we go. And now he's like making all this money from Ocean Spray, Fleetwood Mac royalties, like the works. It's
Yeah.
nuts. Anyway, point being is if that's your goal, that's totally different. Obviously, it's a different audience, a different type of branding. But if you're trying to become a professional in the traditional sense of the world, like work for a marketing company or a news organization or a university or wherever it is, you have to have that professional image on your
Brand
social.
yourself.
And brand yourself and keep that consistent. So just be aware of that. I know it is a challenging thing.
Yeah, you guys will learn a lot more about that in capstone too. Like that's something you guys will talk about when you're getting ready to graduate. You'll like make a website and do all that social media stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun actually. It's a fun class.
I highly recommend, like in my 211 classes, I make my students, they're required to make a portfolio to get started as early as that, because oh my gosh, it sounds traumatizing having to make it in your capstone year while trying to find a job and find all the work. So if you start early, and also then especially if you want to go into social media marketing, you need to have an established social media presence. It doesn't matter if you have like, I mean, it can matter, but even if you only have like 200 followers on that, showing that you've been, tweeting, posting on Instagram, posting on Facebook, whatever it is, and you've been doing so they can get a feel for your style and see how you post, and that you've been doing this for a while, and it's not something I threw together a month ago because I knew I was looking for jobs and had to remake the social media page. Really, like if I left CSU, and I have no intentions of going anywhere, but if I did, I would be that frantic because my professional social media pages are dead. It's maybe a questionable why they're there. I just looked at them yesterday and I was like, crap, last post was 2019. Nice job, Jess.
Yeah,
So
I had a year between posts.
Yeah.
Like September of last year to September this year. It was like a year apart. I was like, oof.
yeah, and I was like, well, my personal one, I'm also just bad on my personal one as well because I'm like, I don't want people knowing where I am. But yes, things to think about. Your whole image as you move forward in your career. Yeah, learn as you go, like learn from each shoot, start shooting. If you haven't started already, I know a couple of you have some experience in shooting already. If you're interested in doing this, start doing it. And it seems like all of you are interested in taking the class because you're gonna make mistakes. Like you're gonna make mistakes probably for the rest of your career. And it's the kind of fun part about this. There's always some new way to innovate in this field and do something new. So like in this last shoot, what did we hijack for, or did we decide to purchase after this, is this fun little DJI Osmo, which I kind of joke, I'm like, I feel like I need to be a rep for them at this point, because I love this stupid thing so much. So this little guy, is a DJI Pocket Osmo. So you get stabilizers, I'm sure you guys have heard about those, but where you would mount your camera onto a stabilizer. You get the Ronins, which are 2 hands, those are amazing, but huge to carry. Like, it would have to be a shoot that you were driving into and could, carry a lot of gear, maybe on a cart or something. And then you have the handled ones, which are smaller, but still pretty heavy. And they do a great job because you can get this quality camera with beautiful, smooth motion that we all know we love in our videos. But this little guy shoots in 4K. It is all auto. You can adjust like 1080, 4K, you can adjust the frame rate and resolution. But it does an amazing job for its size of like motion shots. It's obviously tiny, and you can set it up on the go. So things that I realized with this guy is that in the light, it's on auto, so it tends to overexpose in bright environments. So on this last shoot, picked up from the shoot budget some Pocket Osmo, the neutral density filters. That's the word I'm looking for. So basically, in intense light conditions, now you can throw one of those on there if you're into photography. Then you can keep your lens wide open and still get shallow depth of field and bright light. But anyway, it was just overexposing, so I found a solution on the internet. Or I think I was actually talking to a videographer on the shoot. I was like, they asked me what I thought of this, and I said, oh, it's great, just it's a little overexposed. And they're like, hey, have you seen the neutral density filters for them? And went and Googled some of those. So really like that. And then the other thing that I found out for this guy is you can attach microphones to that. And I knew it going into the shoot. And I'll show you the little setup. Let me actually turn this off and put it down. Is you can attach your normal microphones onto this. And I knew that now I don't know where I put it because I've unpacked everything. Where did that adapter go? I know it's in my gear bag somewhere here. That's another thing, make sure you know where everything is in your gear bag, and I repack before every shoot and double check. But anyway, oh, I put it on the outside of the bag. That's where it was. Don't trust yourself to remember anything. If you're anything like me, anything I need to remember, I need to write down, put in my calendar, make note of, take pictures of. So this little thing is awesome because you can put it into its little bracket, and it connects, comes with little adapters. And then the other thing that I definitely lost is my phone. There we go. And you can hook it up to your phone because this little screen is tiny on this little guy. And you can't really see what's going on. It's a little square, so it's more compact, so you can't really see the full frame. You have to guess. But you can rig it up to your phone. And then you can rig a microphone onto it. And that way, you've got full little setup. You can see it here. You have to download an app, but it's pretty easy. But then I found out that, oh, this works, but you need an adapter for it. And I should have checked before. It was my own fault. Luckily, we had another adapter for the other one. So point of this is A, I'm going to demonstrate this, and B, like, learn as you go. Like, figure out, make a note after every shoot of like, hey, what did I wish I had here? What did I bring that I didn't use? You know, is that necessary, or is that a backup that I need? Because I have never used my power bank, but I'm not taking it out of there. I hope I never have to use it, but it's like the safety net I won't remove it. Whereas other things, I'm like, oh, there's like a little stand in there. I was like, oh, I'll probably never use that. It was dead weight. So make note of things that you need. Take a note, figure out if you need to purchase those or how you'll travel differently. And see what's kind of coming out. So this guy, it costs, I think it was like $300. Is it as good quality as the A7? Absolutely not. It doesn't make some awesome motion shots. Yeah, totally does. So cool thing about this little guy is, let's see if my app turns on. There we go. Is I can just like do pans of the room, and you'll see it kind of like lag behind, and it will do the room. But now you can also adjust it with your fingers. And I'm actually going to take this guy off for now. And it shows you like what you're looking at. I can just move it with my fingers, and I can also move it with my phone and adjust the camera with my phone there. You can see exactly what I'm shooting. I can also adjust all the settings on it. And then, yeah, it will just follow where you're moving to and lag a little behind and create that really nice smooth motion. And that's my current favorite thing to play with. And I kind of shows it's also so compact. You can also, like, it looks more professional when you have the bigger setup on it, but you can also, you know, in places where you don't necessarily want to have a big camera, I don't recommend doing anything, like, illegally. Like, always get permission to shoot things, but for example, like, I got permission to shoot at a Republican convention. I was going by myself, and I was like, hey, like, I just don't want to have a big flashy camera. And everybody was super nice to me. It ended up being awesome, but it was a place where I was like, okay, you know, there's a bad rap for reporters. That's totally okay. So I just went in with a smaller camera, and it ended up being a great shoot. So there'll be times where you want to have a smaller setup, and this is a great thing. Or even like in parks where you don't want people to be paying attention to you. So they are great. Oh, thanks. I really like them. Any other things that you guys have been using in your shoots, or tips that you've learned from shooting video? What do you guys think? What are you guys using at the moment? What do you like?
I mean, I just bought myself, this past summer, I just bought myself a new Canon EOS RP. I bought that for myself.
Nice. How do you like it?
I enjoy it. I mean, it is kind of heavy, but I'm looking for a gimbal for Christmas.
Nice.
So if I can get some use out of that.
That's super exciting. Yeah, that would be pretty heavy. Are you looking for the, like, the full Ronin, or are you looking for like a more handheld?
Probably just more of like the handheld one, just because if I'm going to be shooting horror edition, like ENG shots,
Yeah.
I'd rather just have that, because it'd just be easier, not access, but like just easier for
Sure.
like crowd shots and stuff like that.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I will say with that, it will start practicing with it because it's going to be heavy to carry that thing around with the gimbal as well. That's awesome. That'll look great.
What did you say?
Like a camera?
Like what gear did you say?
I'm just looking for a gimbal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, or stabilizer. I can't think what's the one. I did some research on those, and with the gear, guys, yeah, just look online before I get any type of gear. I'll just go and research, like, hey, what's everybody else using? I'll ask people around, see if it's in the equipment room, so I can go play with it first, and learn what you like. Spend some time researching it. Do you want to show your
Yeah.
body pod thing?
Yeah, so if you guys really are thinking about doing this, as a independent contractor or professionally, and especially if you end up taking 345 or a more advanced video class, especially if it's with Steve, I'll just tease him on camera now that his favorite thing to say is probably high production value. So that's kind of doing video production that's not standard. It's not just on the tripod or just somebody holding the camera. Look for unique and creative ways to capture video content. So like with the Osmo, or with a Ronin stabilizer, or with a drone, or with a 360 camera, or with a GoPro, or whatever. There's hundreds of different fun and creative ways out there to capture video. So one that I just happened to find by chance, and it's very simple. It's called a Platypod. I don't know if anybody ever seen these. So I found it a few years ago. I think it was they were still doing like their crowdsourcing or whatever it was. They were trying to start selling these products. This is actually a tripod. So what's really cool about this is you can take your ball head, so just this little guy off your tripod. You can attach it on here, and then you can just put your camera right on it. And what's really nice about this is you basically get as low a profile as possible, or low angle as possible with your shoot. So whether you're doing, let's say, like landscape photography with a really wide angle lens because you need something in the foreground, you just put this right in front of it. Or if you want to just get a different and unique angle for your video, people walking past it, or people walking on a trail, or something on the ground, you have this nice stable platform. It does have feet, so if you use it outdoors, you can screw these through here, and they're nice and sharp and pointy, so they'll latch onto anything. And it's just a cool little extra something to carry around. It's super light, it fits right in my bag. I've used it for photography a bunch of times. I've used it for video a few times. So I definitely recommend, keep an eye out for just kind of cool, unique ways to make your video productions a little different, than everybody else. Kind of find the thing that you like. If you do take 345, you'll get a chance to start using some different things, like a 360 camera or like a GoPro. Like one of the assignments is like a first-person video that you're going to do. And I hated doing that project, but it's good. It's a good skill to learn. In the equipment room, there's a ton of that stuff to use and play with. There's a drone workshop in the spring coming up, so I definitely recommend taking that. It's a 1-credit class. Matt Gold teaches it. I took it last semester. It was a lot of fun. So, and you actually get to go out and fly drones, and it'll prepare you to take the exam. So, So always keep an eye out for different, unique, and creative ways to take video and photos. Yeah.
So on your shoots, to take away some things, basically what we just did, we went into like little shooting video techniques, the 10-second thing. Is we crammed 345s, they're shooting and editing video, and like a tinge of it more advanced stuff into like an hour and a half. So this is like a very brief intro into all the things. Figure out what gear works for you. Don't take our word for it. Use the equipment room, play with it. But if you're going to start shooting your own video, like the tips that I would take away, remember anything, adjust your settings beforehand. So like make sure you're shooting the correct settings before, maybe get to know your gear out there. Think about those 10-second things. Everybody in the last class said that when they shot their 211 video, the biggest thing they learned was every shot that they shot was like 2 seconds, and they kind of just quit too early and didn't have much to work with and had to go back and get some stuff. So keep it rolling, make sure your audio is working, and also that it's in focus. Like, I would say the two most common issues that I see in newer videographers are focus issues, is they just, like, their interview subject's out of focus, and something that shouldn't be in focus is in focus. You see this for, like, forever. Everybody has a focus problem, even most advanced videographers. But make sure that's okay. And, you know, bad audio is another really big thing that I see. So, making sure you're running for long enough with stable shots, have good audio, and checking your settings would be my top takeaway tips. Do you have any last minute tips before we talk about the rest of the semester and pitches?
I think just really like big thing for me has always been just know your gear, practice it, use it, learn what makes it different and unique. Settings are really big, and settings on every camera is different, even in the same brand. You know, like my two Nikons that I shoot with are both very different, so I definitely recommend if you're using something new or you're using something a lot, just use it as much as you can, just so you really get to know how it works. I mean, this camera took me months to really learn how to start getting great photos with. But it's definitely worth that time investment, you know, in the long run for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm terrible because I have like at least the same ability that you guys have to check out a bunch of different cameras and go use a bunch of different gear. Is the minute something like fails me, I'm like, oh nope, I need to try something new now. But now with the A7 and those, I've really like worked through their issues and got to spend like months working on it. And it takes, I would agree, it took months to really get it to recreate what I was seeing in my head.